guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled, Neighbor Dumped 400 Tire on My Farmland, I Returned the Favor. Never mess with a farmer. TLDR. Neighbor likes to constantly take advantage of my property by parking his car on it and dumping trash there. He also sneaks into my vegetable garden and steals from me when he thinks I don't know about it. After asking nicely many times, I threaten to call the police and he doesn't like that. He dumps 400 tire on my property and thinks that he got away with it. I dump them all on his lawn and as a bonus tell his wife what he has actually been up to. Turns out messing with a farmer was a really bad idea. Now I don't know about other parts of the world, but I can tell you that around here it isn't uncommon for farmers to find large garbage items magically appearing on our properties. Washers, refrigerators, couches, you name it, and someone I know probably has had it happen to them. As you can imagine, it is especially frustrating for many reasons, the main one being that it tends to happen in the middle of the night, and we don't know who did it. So, for everyone out there that might know this frustration, I want to share with you how I ended up getting some sweet revenge on one of these people. I didn't know these people could be any dumber, but if you are doing the same thing to a farmer that you end up living right next door to, he is probably going to find out about what you are doing. Anyway, time to tell you about my douchebag of a neighbor. Even before he committed this act, he was already a total pain in my behind. For starters, he tended to park his car on my property. This never made sense to me because while he was my neighbor, he technically lived about a block away. Now I never figured out 100% what this guy did, but I'm pretty sure it had something to do with garbage or a recycling plant based on what was usually left on my property. I've had trash, broken cars, bags of who knows what, and sometimes stuff that really smelled bad. Some of which would only be there for a few hours while others seemed to get conveniently forgotten about. Obviously, the first thing that I did was try to have a talk with this guy and let him know that where he was dumping was my property. He didn't act crazy or anything like other stories that I heard from farmers. He actually seemed really nice and told me that he would be more careful where he dumped things. The problem was that he said that same thing every time I tried to talk to him. It was clear that he didn't care. Finally, I decided I needed to stop being so nice the next time I saw him and be more direct instead. Me. You need to stop doing this crap. Neighbor. What do you mean? He just dumped some bags of garbage on my property. Me. My yard isn't your personal dumping ground and I have told you that several times. If you keep doing it, I am going to call the police and report you. Neighbor. I'm not doing anything wrong. I treat you with nothing but respect and you come out here and yell at me? Me. You clearly don't respect me since you are still dumping on my land and still stealing from my garden. I forgot to mention, but neighbor for some reason decided that my vegetables were just up for grabs, and while I only caught him stealing them a couple times, I know that he does it often. Neighbor. Accusing me of theft? You better know that you shouldn't mess with me unless you want trouble. Me. Trust me, if you don't stop dumping on my land, the only one of us going to be in trouble is you. I know that I might have seemed harsh, but like I said, I tried being nice for months without any kind of response. If he kept stealing and dumping, my plan was to just call the police and have them deal with him. As a farmer, I'm busy and I have a lot more important things to do than to micromanage my neighbor and what he is doing on my property. I don't need to tell you that he didn't listen, of course, and the next thing he did was in retaliation to me threatening him with the police. Also, this is why I feel like he has some kind of job in the garbage industry or a recycling plant, because I feel like getting a hold of 400 tire is hard for just a normal person to do. Anyway, the giant thud was what woke me up in the middle of the night, and by the time I made it outside I could only see neighbor driving away in a truck laughing and the mess that was on my farmland. 400 tire are a lot, and these were a ton of variety. There were normal car tire and then some huge ones that were definitely made for trucks, and even a few really big ones that I recognized right away as tractor tire. Honestly, if those were in good shape, I might have taken them for spares. But these were all clearly worn out tire that had been thrown away at some point. While some people might think my recourse to this would just be to call the police like I had threatened him with, but that just didn't seem good enough anymore. I don't know if it was me being sick of people like him or seeing other farmers and hearing their stories of how they decided to finally stop taking crap from douchebags like this guy. No matter what it was though, it inspired me to not get mad at this guy, but to get even. I knew who he was, where he lived, and had a very large forklift for hay. It took a long time to get all of the tire onto my lift safely before taking it just down the road and stopping right in front of neighbor's house. He was nowhere to be seen and didn't expect what I was going to do to him. I dumped all of them right in his yard, and just like he had woken me up, I had woken him. He came outside and had such a red face I thought he was going to pop. I couldn't help myself from saying something to him instead of just driving away quietly. Me. You forgot this on my land, neighbor. Wanted to make sure that you didn't forget them. He really couldn't say anything after that and was still just red-faced and flabbergasted. I saw his wife come out the door shouting in confusion about what had happened and looked angry at me. Of course, I didn't blame her because she probably had no idea what was going on, so I made sure to tell her everything about her husband using my property for dumping grounds. Now his face was less red and more sweating because you could tell she wasn't too happy with him about that. I took that as my cue to leave the two of them alone, and besides I had plenty of other things to do. I could hear a little bit before I was out of earshot of the wife saying that she gave him money for vegetables, and if he stole them, what did he do with her money? I don't know how exactly, but he was able to get rid of the tire, and I don't know what happened to them. I also stopped seeing him stealing from me or dumping stuff on my property anymore after he found out that I have a big bark and a big bite to match. I wanted to tell this story not only for entertainment, but if any other farmers read it, they know that if someone is messing with you, then you should let them have it. Don't let these kinds of people take advantage of you, because we all know that farmers are tough as nails, and nobody should mess with us. The next story is titled, Am I the Asshole for Not Letting My Neighbors Borrow My Car for a Long Trip? I, female 29, moved to a new neighborhood almost 2 years ago. I live alone, no partner or kids, but my mom, female 80, does live with me part of the year, 6 to 8 months of the year. I really like this neighborhood and haven't any issues until now. It's a very tight-knit community, neighborhood BBQs at least once a month, the kids all play together after school, etc. My next-door neighbors to one side have a severely disabled child. She is 6, almost 7, and completely nonverbal and wheelchair-bound. They have nurses who help care for her, but I know her parents are struggling, understandably so. Her mom had to quit her job and is a full-time caretaker for her and their other older child. I've gotten relatively close to them, the parents, and they are lovely neighbors. Their older child is respectful and honestly one of the sweetest children in the neighborhood. For my mom, I bought a minivan, and had it customized to have a ramp and wheelchair tied down so that I can easily transport her and her mobility equipment, usually an ECV or wheelchair, when she's staying with me. The other 4 to 6 months of the year, when my mom spends time with her sister and friends in our home country, the car sits mostly unused unless I have a reason to move bigger things that won't fit in my daily driver. I noticed that the neighbors didn't have a car suitable for transporting their daughter without taking her out of the wheelchair and fighting to keep all her tubes and wires in place, so I offered them the use of my minivan if I wasn't using it to transport my mom. We've had an agreement in place that has worked well for us for almost 18 months, but now they've asked if they can use the car to go on a road trip. The trip is scheduled to last just over 2 weeks. The main reason for the trip is to take the kids to Disney World for the first time. My problem is that my mom is supposed to arrive a couple days after they would leave. I asked if they could delay the trip by just a few days so I can at least get her from the airport with minimal stress. They are adamant they leave on the dates they want to do. I said no. I need to be able to comfortably get my mom from the airport, and after a 12-hour flight I want her to be comfortable and not have to worry about getting in and out of the car. They called me selfish, and I've been ousted by the rest of the community. I wasn't invited to the last barbecue. Nobody says hi or waves back at me on the street anymore. The neighbor kids that come by to see my dogs and run around the yard with them haven't been by in almost 2 weeks. I tried to text the neighbors, but my texts went undelivered, so I think they blocked me. I feel like I'm living in a hostile environment now, and it's so uncomfortable. Should I just cave and let them take my car? Update. Sorry it took so long to update, there's been a lot going on. A few days after I posted on here, I got a text from the next door neighbor asking if we could talk. She came over to my place, and before we even started talking, she was in tears and hugging me, apologizing for everything that had happened over the last couple of weeks. She said her brother had sent her the post and she had no idea what had been happening in the neighborhood. Eventually I got the full story. The day before they asked about taking the van for a vacation, they had gone to meet with her daughter's medical team and got bad news. They gave her only a few more months to live. She really wanted to take her kids to Disney World before her daughter passed, and obviously with her emotions running high, she vented to her best friend, also lives in the neighborhood with her kids, who was the real reason nobody was speaking to me. Her boyfriend had told everybody I told them I didn't care that their daughter was dying, and I was being incredibly selfish. It was a very emotional conversation and she told me she would set things right with the other neighbors. After she went home, I spoke to my mom, and we agreed to try and help them pay for Disney World. I got some apology messages from other neighbors and did a kind of fundraising and raised a decent chunk for them to be able to afford flights and accommodations. They went on their trip and had a great family vacation. Her boyfriend apologized to me and told the neighbors the full story. Unfortunately, their daughter passed about 10 days ago, peacefully in her sleep. Neighbors are obviously heartbroken but are being supported by the neighborhood. So yeah, not exactly a happy ending, but everything is as normal as can be now. The next story is titled, Neighbors Claimed 1,200 Square Foot of Property That's Not Theirs. I purchased a house about 2 months ago. Had the county survey and marked the property. I don't know why I was curious but was digging through my paperwork. My property is 54 times 140 equals 7,560 square foot. I decided to measure it and I have 46 times 140 square foot. So, I was looking at the survey map I got, and it says 54 feet between my neighbor's fence and my other neighbor's garage. Well, it's not, it's 46 feet. Then I noticed that the county surveyor has the same last name as one of my neighbors. So today the state surveyor came and marked the property lines, and my neighbors that share the same last name have 8 times 120 feet of my property that part of their garage, house addition, and fence is on. I spoke to the surveyor. He said it's too late to contest the property lines because it needed done within 30 days of purchase. I explained to him the situation with the county guy. He asked for proof, and I showed him. He said he will file a complaint with the survey board and with the state attorney. He also said I needed a lawyer as of now. I have reached out to several real estate lawyers and waiting for consultations. My question, I guess, is that I probably have to wait for the lawyer. But what are the chances of me getting my property back? Also, will they have to give it back? Or will I be forced to sell it to them? Edit. The state is Kansas. Edit 2. They have never had any permits issued to their parcel number, city lot number, or address. Their house drawing the county assessor's office has shown no garage, fence, or home addition. The surveyor is also the city code enforcement officer. He is supposed to drive around and enforce the code. Now, how he never saw his niece adding to her property and cited her or made her pull permits is kind of interesting. I got certified copies of everything yesterday before work. Just in case something miraculously shows up, I have certified copies showing they were not there on the 29th of yesterday. Going to take everything with me when I meet my lawyer after I wake up. Hopefully I can get my property back. Update. June 30th, 22. Talked to a few lawyers. They all wanted a retainer except one. He said that he would take the case and charge me 35% of what I'm awarded, as he is 100% sure he can win my case in either a settlement for the land or through making them pay my attorney fees and have my property returned to me. He went through historical satellite images and found it was built 7 years ago. About the previous time the old owner stopped renting out the property. He said that he would have a preliminary court date scheduled by Monday and would let me know when the hearing would be scheduled for. Update. Well, last week was a good week. Now we wait to see if an appeal is filed by my neighbors. So, we won, and I got the property back, sort of. The judge said that we could both submit a fair offer on me what I want for the property and what they are willing to pay for the property. He did say they are liable for the increased property taxes they avoided as well as fair rental cost for the duration of the time they have possessed the property. If we cannot come to terms on a sale price, they have 30 days from that time to return the property to me, including removing anything they have on the property. If it is not returned in 30 days, they will be fined by the day in an amount he will rule at that time. My lawyer recommends asking for $500 a square foot, so $600,000, plus they already have to pay my attorney fees. The city worker has been fired and the judge has ordered the city to audit all his documents during his time of employment. He was also arrested Friday, but nothing has hit the local papers, so not sure for what yet. My lawyer said they will more than likely appeal once everything has finished. He also claimed that since we won this time based of state precedent, we will win the appeal. So, I guess in 60 days I'll get a nice chunk of change or my property back. Thanks for the advice. The last story is titled, Don't Park Like That Again. We have a 2-car garage, but it's full of stuff, so we park in the driveway. My husband always parks his truck on the right and I park my car on the left. No reason, just habit. Anyway, one day, for reasons I forget, hubby parks on the left side, so when I get home, I just put my car on the right. Our neighbor across the street, we'll call him Fang, was a big and dangerous looking kind of guy, an amply tattooed member of a notorious motorcycle club but really not a troublemaker, and we were on good terms with him because better good than bad, right? Actually, he was a good neighborhood watch because he had no qualms about marching up to anyone or anything out of place and calling it out. Fang must have been the sort who likes things predictable and orderly because he came over and told hubby that it really messed him up to see our cars parked like that, and perhaps we shouldn't park like that again. So, late that night/early morning we crept outside and moved the cars. It took a bit of maneuvering, but we had time and motivation to get the cars repositioned in the drive. Sideways. Facing in opposite directions. All was quiet the next morning. We opened the door and found a photograph, remember those? On our doorstep, taken with an instant camera, remember those? It was a picture of Fang aiming a shotgun, Texas, at hubby's truck. In the end, we all had a good laugh about it, and no one was harmed in the making of this film. Thank you for listening.